Hey everyone, welcome to our LinkedIn Live with Launch. Learn with Launch at lunch, something like that. I do that every week. This time we're talking about Pinterest. It's the greatest title in the world, perfecting your Pinterest ads. So it's all about Pinterest today. But first of all, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Jay, I'm the founder of Launch. And the fun fact we're choosing today is, what band do you want to have seen at Glastonbury? Do you wish you were seeing at Glastonbury? And now I've got a mind blank on which one it was, but I've seen that Coldplay, they always do a good gig. But I think it was Dua Lipa. That's who I wanted to see. Harriet, do you want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Harriet. I'm a paid media director at Launch. And hands down, the person on the bill this year that I wish I was seeing is Avril Lavigne, because that is my childhood right there. Maybe one of the first CDs I ever owned was Avril Lavigne.
There's an amazing lineup, and we've got a couple of team members there. And I'm very, very jealous, especially as it's not even muddy this year. So I could have probably done it. So there you go. So like I said, we're talking all about Pinterest ads today. And I just want to emphasize that those of you that are watching live, please do ask questions. You can use the chat to ask questions. We're live on both LinkedIn and on YouTube. So do use that chat function. But if you're watching back, then you can always get in touch with us, DM us on LinkedIn, something like that. So first of all, let's cover the basics first. What actually are Pinterest ads?
Okay, so Pinterest does what it says on the tin. Pinterest ads are ads that you can run on Pinterest. And I think what sort of differentiates Pinterest ads from Meta ads or Google ads is they're kind of a combination of the two. And what I mean by that is, through Pinterest, Pinterest is a search engine as well as being able to target by audiences and interest and themes. So you can sort of combine your higher intent traffic that you get through Google with your audience targeting through Meta, bring them together, and that's where you get Pinterest.
Nice. Why is it in particular that you love Pinterest so much? Because I know you're a bit of a Pinterest fan.
I am a Pinterest fan from a consumer point of view and from an advertising point of view. There are many reasons I love Pinterest. I think probably the main one is just, I think they call it, or they have done it before, like an oasis of positivity. And Pinterest is essentially such a positive platform, and people don't go there with opinions or news or current affairs or drama, or I think it's very unlikely you're going to find anything about the election on Pinterest. It's all just inspirational, aspirational. People go there to better themselves, to better their lives, whether it's planning a party, planning a wedding, looking for a new outfit for a party, everything in between. And people there, I think from an advertising point of view as well, it's really interesting because people on Pinterest have a slightly higher intent than they might do on the likes of Instagram. I don't know about you, Jay, but if you think about it, so I don't often find myself accidentally on Pinterest on my phone without really realizing how I got there, which definitely happens on Instagram. And I don't think there's anything there's such thing as doom scrolling on Pinterest either. People are there with a purpose. You're not just sort of like scrolling through aimlessly. You've got a reason. So people tend to go to Pinterest fewer times. It's maybe like a once a week kind of platform rather than a once or multiple times a day kind of platform. But people spend longer on it and are more engaged when they are there. And that's a really big opportunity for advertisers.
From like the fact that they don't also try and get you to stay. Like, you very freely can, sometimes you find with Meta, they're trying to keep you on the platform. They very freely, it's all about sharing links. It's all about getting you to the advertiser or the brand that you're looking at their products for.
Absolutely, yeah. And no one's sort of saying, gosh, I need to take a break from Pinterest. I need to delete Pinterest from my phone for a while, which definitely happens with the likes of, TikTok and Instagram. It's got its ongoing algorithms just sort of pull you in. Just to add to that as well, that sort of search engine aspect of Pinterest, 97% of searches on Pinterest are unbranded, which means you're sort of a level up from where your Google searches are. You can reach people before they even know really what it is that they want, whether they're searching for some inspiration or a style or something. They're not searching brands because they don't exactly know what it is that they want yet, so they don't know which brands to search. So it's about getting to them one step ahead. They've actually, I think a couple of weeks ago, just released these really fun videos. There's 2, I think, or 3. And one of the sort of narratives through one of them is like talking about where Pinterest is where you go and you find the thing that you didn't know you needed because you went to see this thing, which took you down this rabbit hole to this thing, and then you ended up here, which you bought. And it's that sort of ongoing thread that is just, it's inspiring you to find new things. And then the final
independent labels. It can be things that aren't necessarily, you know, all over Google Shopping, or it can be through recommendation, little niche brands. Yeah, I love it for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely opportunity there for advertisers, because there aren't many brands on there. I mean, there are brands on there advertising, but compared to what people spend on Meta and Google, if you get in now, you're still technically, I think, qualified as like an early adopter, because it's not as competitive. It's cheaper because it's not as competitive. So skipping ahead right to the end of what this might end up being, I would recommend you get on Pinterest.
In the background, Tom, our head of marketing, has popped up a QR code here that actually, if you want resources after this, there's a really handy blog. Or if you're perhaps watching this because you're a CMO and you want your marketing team to find out more about this, share this recording, or this blog will take you, and take you through those steps a bit more. I really liked the party analogy that I think you were going to share. Go on, tell me the social party that we're at here.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I can't take credit for this because I think this is something that Pinterest sort of use when they come to our events, and they use this sort of analogy, but it's where they position themselves in relation to other social platforms. So they sort of give the example that people on Pinterest are planners, right? So they're planning something. So they sort of push Meta in the party analogy of like, that was a great party. Here's a picture of the party I went to last week. It was amazing. And then you've got Snapchat, if you're a Snapchat user, in the middle, that's sort of, or maybe your Instagram stories as well. This is your sort of in the moment, I am at a great party. Look how great it is. Pinterest is where you go to be like, I'm planning a great party. I am actually planning a party, and the first place I went was to Pinterest. So that's sort of, you're ahead of the game. You're getting people, like I said, before they know what they want.
I mean, yeah. I found out things about like tablescaping, about how people change all of their decorations by the seasons. I mean, it's incredible. And in fact, actually, we might be skipping ahead a little bit here, but while we're talking about it, the trends tool for CMOs who are trying to understand what their audience is looking at, the trends tool works quite well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's sort of two main places I'd go if you want to look at what's coming up. So there's the trends tool within the platform, and that's a really easy tab within the ads manager. You can go in and it gives you sort of what's trending all over Pinterest. Some of it might be very irrelevant to you guys, but then also what's trending kind of in your category based on your ads and what you're pushing out. So that's things that are sort of, I think they update them every 2 weeks or every week. So that's something you can jump on quite quickly and start churning out content in line with like what's coming up and what people are searching for. So it's about adopting the content that you have to match what that specific trend is that week. They call them moments, I think, like moments campaigns.
So it's quite interesting because you've got, TikTok might have Beyonce's song trending and everything's cowboy. And then you go to Pinterest, and then if you're looking for your kind of cowboy outfit to go to your latest party, it's where you go to go shopping. That's why we love it, because it's that high intent shopping. What about the visual element? If we're saying that Pinterest is a bit of a search engine, what about the visual element of it?
Pinterest is so visual. I'd say even more visual than Instagram and Facebook, to be honest with you, because yes, you can add copy and there's headlines and there's descriptions to add to your pins when you are promoting them, but they might not like me for saying this, but nobody reads that really. It's very important to be there from like an SEO point of view, from an optimization point of view. If you're putting keywords in for your targeting, that's how your pins are going to start appearing based on the copy that you've got. But it's all about that image. And yeah, there's quite a few little tips and tricks, I guess, on those visuals of how you can make the content that you already have suitable for Pinterest. Right. Because I think people probably might see a new platform as quite overwhelming and thinking, gosh, that's a lot more creative input that I need to have. But it's just about slightly tweaking what you've perhaps already got for Instagram in that vertical format.
And I don't know if you know, but the guys at adobe.com are going to love me for this. They've released a free tool to help you create pins.
Amazing.
It's a free creative tool, and I believe that we might end up putting a link to that in our Pinterest blog. And it's a quick way to be able to translate that content. Just a quick shout out to Peter there. Thank you for your comment. You're right. The Pinterest Predicts report is really good, and gives a great steer for CMOs to see how people are reacting on Pinterest.
Absolutely. That was going to be my second point of places to go. And they've got some crazy stat, and I'm going to get this wrong, but it's something like 85% of the things they predict actually come true. Yeah, it's really high. So definitely have a look. I love that.
And Tom's even put out the QR code to that. Nice one, Tom. He's absolutely on fire today. Okay, so we've talked about kind of why do you love Pinterest? But tell me a bit more about what businesses you think would benefit from it.
I think the majority of businesses could benefit from Pinterest. I think there's probably a section of maybe B2B businesses where it's potentially not the right place. It's more of a B2C environment. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong on that, but I have never tested it from a B2B point of view. I think it's just as long as you've got the right visuals that fit in that Pinterest sphere, it's for anyone. But that's really important because there's a Pinterest look and feel, and you can stand out of place quite quickly and quite obviously if you have kind of tried to do Pinterest but haven't really put the time and effort into it and just copied across what you've got on your Meta and shoved it on Pinterest. I think you can fail quite quickly in that instance. So it's just about open to anyone if you've got the correct assets and sort of the ambition and drive to want to make that work.
Well, that nicely then feeds into kind of what impact or results can brands expect from being on Pinterest?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really depends on what your objective is. And I mean that from like your broader marketing objective, but also the objective that you give these campaigns that you're running. So you can run full funnel campaigns across Pinterest. You can run brand awareness, you can run more consideration campaigns, and you can run conversion campaigns. So you'll know that the metrics that you're looking at for success measurements there are going to vary based on what it is that you're looking for. I'd say primarily what we're looking at when we're running our Pinterest campaigns is things like CPM, click-through rates, CPCs, just because often people that are advertising on Pinterest are also advertising on Meta, and everybody likes to look at them comparatively, even though they're quite different. It's kind of that social spend. So I think looking at how much it's costing you to reach your audiences, how many of those people you are reaching. And then after that, I'd actually go to analytics and look at the user behavior on site. Going back to what we said at the beginning, I think Pinterest audiences and Pinterest users are a lot more engaged. So what's a really interesting comparison is to look at your engagement rates, your time on site, everything that people are doing once they get to your website from, let's say, from Meta versus from Pinterest, and just have a look at how those audiences are interacting with your site.
Interesting. What kind of budgets are we talking here?
I mean, there is no minimum budget to be able to run on Pinterest. I mean, there might be a really small daily budget that it makes you hit, but I'd say as a starter, what I recommend to clients is a minimum of 2K a month, just because anything less than that, and you're really going to struggle to see anything significant in those first few weeks. Pinterest, is worth noting as well, Pinterest also have what they call these incentive programs. And this, again, they can do this because they're not as competitive as Meta, and they're trying to get more advertisers in, so they can offer these schemes. They do them quarterly. So I think we were saying this morning, the next one should be coming out next week. But if you can spend, I think the minimum is 2K. And if you spend a certain amount in 30 days, you get a 50% kickback on that amount in the following 30 days. So you spend 2K, you get an extra £1,000 to spend the following months. And that's, I think, a really good initiative for people starting out on Pinterest to be able to achieve a bit more by spending slightly less.
Yeah. And I would say, as part of that kind of minimum viable product of if you are spending, say, 2K and you're getting another K back from Pinterest, put the emphasis in the creative assets, because Absolutely. You're going to get some organic growth from that anyway. But put the creative assets in place, because otherwise then it's not going to be a proper test. And then be ready to scale, be ready to be ambitious.
Yeah.
We talk a lot at launch about the funnel. Where is this in this kind of consideration and awareness piece?
So like I said, you can run full funnel. So you can run conversion campaigns, you can run sales campaigns, you can now run catalog campaigns as well. So something that I'm keen to get testing next month, I think is in the pipeline, is a travel catalog. So where we run sort of a product feed of trips through Meta, we're going to start running that through Pinterest with the aim of bookings. So you can run sales campaigns, you can run remarketing campaigns where you've got higher intent audiences coming through who you're hoping are ready to buy. But I'd say the majority of the spend that we put through Pinterest is that more awareness and then consideration. So a lot of brand awareness, a lot of interest-based, maybe like really long-tailed or more generic keyword targeting. And then a lot of traffic campaigns. So we do a lot of activity around clients' blogs where we're not really pushing any sales messaging whatsoever. It's more about sort of that value offering whilst you're bringing people into the site. So I think there's an example coming up actually in one of the example pins that we'll show, but one of our travel clients where it's sort of like top 5 hiking destinations in Scotland or something. And that's something that people are coming to Pinterest. They're planning a trip to Scotland. They want to know where to go walking. And that's how you can bring people into the brand and then offer them some information without anywhere saying, book a trip with us. But that's how you get the brand sort of awareness out there. So yeah, I'd say primarily awareness and that consideration, and then sort of a small percentage we're testing on conversion.
I can't remember which outdoors brand it was, whether it's Cotswolds Outdoors or Go Outdoors, but that was some of the things, the main things they were pinning were not their hiking boots, but top 5 places to do X, Y, and Z. And it's a great, it then is delivering value for that potential customer. Yeah, I really like that. Okay, I think we've got about just over 10 minutes left. So if anyone's got questions, please do ask them now. But the thing that I think we're asked for most is the tips and tricks for making the most of Pinterest. So, so the first question I've had from someone is, how can I create visually appealing Pinterest ads?
That's a great question. And you'll be pleased to know that you don't sort of need to start from scratch with Pinterest if you're currently running other channels, like I mentioned, like Instagram. So my recommendation would be take your story placement asset that you have, and you just need to tweak it a little bit. I think we've got some examples in the background that should be coming up in a second. There we go, like clockwork. So you'll see how these look slightly different in various different ways to what you might see on Instagram. Starting with the first one on the left is the Sweaty Betty example. They've sort of taken that asset, but they've added the logo, the brand name, the text, and then the sort of CTA at the bottom. And I really like Pinterest, like I said, is a very visually appealing platform, and it's really nice how this text is sort of wrapping around that image. They've purposely chosen the image. It's got a lot of blank space, which then enables them to get that messaging across without sort of interrupting the image there. And it gives you everything you need to know without having to click on it and read the headline and the description. The second one is what I was talking about. So maybe that value offering. So this is taking people, it's one of our clients, and taking people through to the blog. So the tips for the first time hikers, getting them through. They've got the call to action, they've got the logo at the top, and it's very clear sort of what that is offering. And then the third one here, the Smeg one, I think is a really nice example because this is not our client. I did not make this ad, but I can tell that they've actually used the in-platform creative tools to build this. So whilst you said, Jay, about was it Adobe that have got something to be able to help you make Pinterest ads, Pinterest have their own version within the ads platform. So it is quite limited, but I think if it's done well, as in the Smeg example, it can look really nice. So they've taken their asset there of sort of the coffee machine in the kitchen, and they've added their logo and then their sort of tagline, create your own cafe bar at home, on top of that. Now it relies on there being space within your asset to add that, because what you don't want to be doing is adding banners at the top or at the bottom and then sort of cutting into your product image or your whatever it is that's showing in your asset. But you can tweak the colors, you can tweak the font to kind of make it a little bit more brand appropriate. So you don't have, what I'm trying to say is you don't have to have a massive in-house creative team to be able to take your existing content and make it a little bit more specific to Pinterest.
I noticed these are all vertical format. Is that what you recommend?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can run square images through Pinterest, but I was scrolling through this morning just to try and find some nice examples here, and they just look a little bit out of place. I think Pinterest has typically always been this vertical format in your newsfeed. I was looking on my desktop. I don't know if it would be any different on mobile, but they just don't look like they fit. Whilst there is place for them, I think I would 100% recommend keeping all of your pins and your Pinterest ads in this vertical placement.
Nice. And videos. Talk to me about videos.
Yeah, there is absolutely space for videos on Pinterest. And these will just autoplay in your feed as you're scrolling through, as I'm sure you've seen. So I saw some really fun ones this morning where sort of the text overlay, the brand logo, everything stays still, but there's just some sort of movement in the background. So I think it was a clothing brand where it's sort of, shop the look, and you've just got these models having a great time in the background. And it doesn't even have to be anything, big film production assets. It's just that little bit of movement that when you've got a screen full of static images, your eye is then drawn to the video.
Yeah, because one of the things I noticed on Pinterest is, some of the things that have been pinned aren't very good quality. So an ad can stand out as really good quality in the feed, and even, like you say, even just a little arrow pointing at what you should be looking at, little GIFs work really well.
Yeah, I couldn't find an example of that, but one of my favorites is where you have the product and it's got, like you said, arrows showing you all the USPs and all the benefits and how it works. It's just there's so much information in one small asset.
One of the questions that I always wonder is, how do you balance if a client has a certain amount of social budget? Because although Pinterest wouldn't call themselves a social platform, they call themselves a visual search engine, I think, or a visual platform. But often Pinterest can fall within the paid social budget line. How do you balance that spend between what's happening on Meta and what you then recommend on Pinterest?
I think it's really difficult. I think because Meta is so ingrained in marketing teams and they've been doing it for years, they've got data in their accounts that sort of pushes them forward. It's really hard to convince people to invest in Pinterest. I think my ideal situation would be a 50-50 split between Meta and Pinterest, because we rarely see that. We rarely see that sign off from clients. So you end up putting 15 grand a month into Meta, let's say, and then you trial Pinterest on 2, and then you say, well, Meta's better than Pinterest. And obviously that's not a fair test, but people aren't bold enough to put 7.5 in each and monitor the results for a month, or for however long your campaign's running. But I think you need to be bold and be willing to, you're investing in Meta, you had to test that at some point. Let's test the new thing.
The one of the things that I think we're seeing within market conditions is a lack of ambition and innovation, when things are now coming down to ROAS and bottom of the funnel. What revenue is being driven. The CFO is much more involved. Then top of the funnel, the inspire piece is being missed out in that puzzle. And I wonder if in Q4 this year we will see the impact of that, which is a less successful Q4 than the year before, because of this retrenching into mainly brand spend and basic high intent bottom of the funnel. So that's a shout out to CMOs. Get friends with your CFOs, get them to understand that you need to have other metrics for top of the funnel, that it can't just be ROAS. Please, God, don't let it just be about ROAS.
I think with Pinterest as well, just to add to that, it's the long-term value. So as long as your pin or your asset doesn't go out of date, if it's still relevant, that can be pinned on your organic page, and that can still drive you traffic to site 2 years after you posted it. It's not like Meta where it's, it gets lost and it's sort of relevant for a month and then it's gone. I know people that are still getting traffic from blogs they posted 2.5 years ago through Pinterest.
That connection between Pinterest and a conversion is much greater, I think, than people realize. The amount of things for home interiors that I have bought from Pinterest, mainly using the visual search tool, actually. So I'll be suggested, I don't know, we've got like a tangerine sofa, velvet sofa. How's this? That sounds terrible. It looks really cool though. Maybe burnt orange. better than tangerine. But in order to find that sofa, I took a picture of one that I couldn't afford, screenshotted it, used the Pinterest image search tool, and then found an alternative one on, I think, sofa.com. And I was able to order it. And I don't know if sofa.com will know that it definitely came through Pinterest, because when I clicked through, I started having to configure it, but I came back to it on my desktop. So that connect, maybe the CMO doesn't know that I made that purchase directly from Pinterest, but yeah, and that's part of it. You've got to really understand that customer journey, haven't you?
And it's a shame when budgets do get tight and ROAS targets get high, it's the first budget to go.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's the right choice. But yeah, I mean, Becky in our team, I'm pretty sure she found her wedding dress on Pinterest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have got a ton of resources. I think we're going to disappear off the screen as Tom shares all the resources we have. We have had 2 events in the last 12 months that Pinterest have done amazing talks at. I really, really recommend that you go to that event page and watch Mairead's talk from a year ago that really really introduced us to that positivity aspect of Pinterest. If you are a brand that really cares about your brand reputation and doesn't want to get people hooked to social media, Pinterest could be a really, really good place for you to increase your budgets. And also Maria joined us in our October event. We went then to another level of Pinterest knowledge. We looked also at the AI and some of the positive things when it comes to searching by skin color and things like that. They're really trying to bake diversity and inclusion into their platform. So I highly recommend that you take a look at these resources. I think, and Tom, you can stop sharing that now. Thank you. I think that CMOs need to increase Pinterest on their to-do list, especially if they are cautious about budgets, because you get more bang for your buck, but don't expect an immediate ROAS would be my tip. What's your final tip, Harriet?
That was a good tip. I think invest time into creative. I don't necessarily mean budget there. I just mean spend the time on the creative that you have already and tweak it for Pinterest. It's not just a copy and paste from Instagram.
I think that is a great tip. Now, I don't know when Dua Lipa is on, but I'm going to make sure that I watch that at Glasgow this weekend. And I'm sorry you're not at Glasgow yourself this year, but that was super, super interesting. And thank you for joining us on this Friday lunchtime with Learn with Launch. And for those of you who are watching it on demand, do reach out if you have got any questions that you'd like to ask following today's talk. But I think that's it. Thank you very much, Harriet.
Thank you.
Cheers.